Rolf Stommelen was a German Formula One driver with 1 career podium and 14 championship points. By 1975, he raced for Graham Hill's Embassy Hill team in the Hill GH1. The 1975 Spanish Grand Prix was held on April 27th at the Montjuïc Street Circuit in Barcelona. Montjuïc was a fast parkland circuit, but drivers had protested its poor preparation. Many Armco barriers were improperly bolted. In fact, the Grand Prix Drivers Association, or the GPDA, struck before the race over these safety concerns. Champion Emerson Fittipaldi did 3 laps at a very slow pace during qualifying before parking it in the pits, furious about the safety of the track. Nonetheless, the race was held under sunny conditions with 75 laps scheduled because the organizers threatened legal action if they didn't run the race, which was common for that era. As the race proceeded, it became a chaotic event with multiple early crashes, such as collision and oil spill. On lap 26, while battling Carlos Pace for the lead, Stommelen's rear wing suddenly failed at about 150 miles per hour. His car swerved into the left barrier, rebounded across the track, and vaulted over the right-hand Armco rail into a spectator area. Stommelen survived with both legs, a wrist, and 2 ribs broken, but the accident struck bystanders. The car's body and debris landed in the crowd. At least 4 people were killed, 2 photojournalists, Mario de Roya and Antonio Font Bayari, a fire marshal, Joaquin Benaches Morera, and a spectator, Andres Ruiz Villanova. Some sources count 5 deaths, but all agree it was a multiple fatality accident. Many others were injured. Astonishingly, officials did not immediately red flag the race. It continued under double yellow flags for 4 more laps after the crash. After 29 of 75 laps, the race was finally stopped due to the disaster. Jochen Mass was declared the winner, with Jackie Ickx second and Carlos Reutemann third. Because the race had not reached 60% distance, only half points were awarded. The accident effectively ended Formula One at Montjuïc. It was the last Spanish Grand Prix held there. The championship moved to Jarama in subsequent years. Allan McNish was a 20-year-old Briton from Scotland and a rising star in junior formulae. He had won the 1988 Formula Vauxhall Lotus title and finished a close runner-up in British Formula 3 in 1989. In 1990, McNish moved to the International Formula 3000 Championship with the Dams in a Lola T 9050. Donington Park was hosting the opening round of the 1990 F3000 season on Sunday, April 22nd. The morning had been wet but drying up, and McNish pulled into the pit after a stall and changed to slick tires. He then fought his way forward in the pack. He climbed to 5th and was challenging leader Emanuele Naspetti by lap 2. As they exited the Coppice corner, McNish pulled out to pass Naspetti on the right, preparing for another corners. Naspetti did not see McNish tucked alongside and moved over on his line. At about 160 miles per hour, their wheels interlocked, launched McNish's Lola into the Armco wall, and broke apart on impact.
The pair went under the Dunlop Bridge, they locked wheels and veered off the track. Though the 2 cars seemed joined together, it was McNish's car which launched itself into the air and climbed a retaining wall and broke than racers, makes it doubly horrific. Worse still, this crash, like that of Darrell Gwyn's at Santa Pod, reminds us that motorsport is dangerous and often very destructive.
The rear tub, engine block and gearbox tore off and cartwheeled over the wall. These heavy parts flew down a pedestrian underpass between the museum and the S's. In an instant, debris struck those walking through the tunnel. One of them was Raymond Lawrence Plummer, a 41-year-old race mechanic from Lincoln who worked for a racing team. He was hit by the flying engine and badly injured. Bystanders and paramedics tried to save him, but he later died from unsurvivable chest and abdominal injuries. Allan McNish miraculously survived. He was ejected from the wreckage with severe concussion and multiple bruises. Adrian Fernandez was a top Mexican driver in kart's 1990s championship series. By 1998, he was driving a Reynard Ford for Patrick Racing and enjoying a breakout season. He recorded 2 wins at Twin Ring Motegi in Japan and Mid-Ohio and finished 4th in the championship, earning his first career pole position at Michigan that year. On July 26, 1998, the kart FedEx Champ car held the US 500 at Michigan International Speedway. It was race 12 of 19 in the 1998 season. Fernandez started on pole in his number 40 Reynard Ford and was running near the front with other top drivers, including Scott Pruitt, Jimmy Vasser, Alex Zanardi, and Greg Moore. On lap 175 of 250, Fernandez entered turn 4 at roughly 200 miles per hour when his car suddenly snapped loose on the slick racing line. He reported that a turbulent wake from Paul Tracy's car alongside may have lifted his car uphill, leaving him high, and there was nothing he could do. The Reynard Ford slammed the outside wall really hard. The car was designed to be shattered on impact, dissipating the force, but still producing an enormous deceleration of about 92 G according to onboard sensors. But the real horror thing wasn't the G-force. It was that the right front wheel and suspension assembly were torn off and catapulted over the catch fence. The debris cleared the standard 4-foot wall and 11-foot safety fence, 15 feet total, and plunged into the grandstand filled with spectators.
Out wide, yes, he got in the marbles, and the wheel flying over the fencing as well, and that perhaps has gone into the grandstand, so that's a very worrying moment. Adrian Fernandez hitting the wall extremely hard.
The crash killed 3 spectators and injured 6 others. Authorities identified the dead as Michael Terry Tautkus, Cheryl Ann Laster, and Kenneth Fox. Laster and Tautkus died instantly from the impact of the wheel, and the third person, Fox, was taken to Bixby Hospital in nearby Adrian, where resuscitation failed. Medics and security quickly cleared the wreckage zone as ambulances ferried victims to the nearby medical center. However, the race continued under a caution flag, a decision widely criticized by media and fans. Kart and track officials held an immediate inquiry, but found no rule violations. Fernandez's car was examined and found to have broken apart as designed. No mechanical failure was reported. NASCAR's competition vice president Mike Helton commented that with cars at 200 miles per hour, a weird set of circumstances can produce unpredictable outcomes, and the lesson is to improve safety where possible. Pierre Levegh was a veteran French sportsman and race car driver who had competed at Le Mans since before World War II. By 1955, he was one of France's elder statesman drivers. He had built a reputation for endurance. At the 1952 Le Mans, he famously drove nearly the entire 24 hours alone in a Talbot, building a 3-lap lead before a late engine failure that cost him victory. The 1955 Le Mans race was highly anticipated as a duel between the reigning world sports car powers. Ferrari, Jaguar, and Mercedes-Benz all fielded new or improved cars, with Mike Hawthorne in a Jaguar D-Type and Juan Manuel Fangio, Sterling Moss, and Levegh with Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR. On lap 35 of the race, afternoon on June 11th, the Jaguar of Mike Hawthorne unexpectedly swerved off to enter the pits. Directly behind Hawthorne was Lance Macklin in a privately entered Austin Healey 100. Macklin, who was caught by surprise, jerked his Healey outwards to avoid the slowing Jaguar, moving right into the path of Levegh, who was coming up fast on the left. The Mercedes was much faster than both cars ahead, and Levegh had little time to react. Levegh's Mercedes struck the rear of Macklin's Healey at very high speed, estimated around 125 miles per hour, and ran up over its sloping tail, then launched through the air into the spectator area. The car first clipped a concrete stairway, then disintegrated with a loud bang. The Mercedes's straight-8 engine block, radiator, axle, and other heavy components were hurled into the packed crowd. For perspective, part of the car, including the 3-liter engine, landed more than 300 feet from the crash point. Within seconds, 81 to 83 spectators in the front rows were killed by the flying debris, and Levegh himself lay beneath the burning wreckage of his Mercedes. Incredibly, the race was not stopped. The organizers made no public announcement of the disaster. They believed that abruptly halting the race and emptying around 200,000 people onto the roads would trap ambulances and rescue vehicles. Instead, the race continued through the night with the Mercedes team withdrawing by the midnight. Bueb and Hawthorne's Jaguar crossed the finish line early Sunday morning and was declared the winner, though victory was overshadowed. Hawthorne's infamous images of him casually sipping champagne on the podium would haunt him in press coverage after the tragedy that, in my opinion, was also caused by him.